What do a tech podcaster and a rough collie have in common? Well, quite a lot, actually, because every morning, rain or shine, I walk Finn, my ever-loyal, occasionally stubborn and always curious rough collie. And somewhere between dodging squirrels and untangling leads, I start thinking about how technology touches every part of our lives, including that relationship that we have with animals. And that brought me to today's guest. He is the CEO and co-founder of the Pet Media Group, the company behind some of the world's most trusted pet marketplaces. You might know them here in the UK as Pets for Homes. In the US, you will know them as Lancaster Puppies. But what you might not know is that Axel, my guest today, and his team are using AI, data-driven safeguards, and a global tech platform to tackle one of the trickiest digital challenges out there: how to make sure that rehoming a pet online is safe, ethical, and full of heart. So today we'll talk about how PMG is helping more than 1 million pets find loving homes each year, the tech that they're using to spot red flags in breeder images, why consistency is tough across countries, and how trust is something that you build with both code and compassion. And he'll also open up about co-founding the company with a close friend and how a shared vision of profit and protection has already scaled to 6 countries without compromising on those values. It's a real inspiring story of what happens when innovation meets empathy. And I'm certain it'll leave you thinking differently about what ethical tech can look like in practice. So let's introduce you to Axel now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here with you. So my name is Axel Lagercrantz. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pet Media Group, or PMG for short. We are the largest operator of pet marketplaces globally. In the UK, you will know us as Pets for Homes, and we also have a presence in countries like the US and the rest of Europe. And in a nutshell, people come to us to connect with breeders and find a new best friend, whether it's a puppy or a kitten or another type of pet. And each year we help roughly 1 million pets per year find loving homes through our platforms.
Fantastic. I love what you're doing here. It's one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast. And we do have a lot of people listening in the US as well. People in the US, what would they know you as?
As LancasterPuppies.com.
Awesome. And you and you launched Pet Media Group with this bold ambition to reshape an industry that's often been criticised for putting profits above animal welfare. And you use technology to change all that. So I'm curious, though, what is that moment that you both realised that this mission could actually also be a scalable business, but while making a big difference with this technology too?
Yeah, you're right. So the industry we operate in is known for bad actors trying to profit from the fact that getting a pet is quite an emotional purchase. People tend to let their guard down and forget about doing their due diligence when they see images of cute puppies online. At the same time, puppies these days are worth quite a lot of money. And these factors combined is why you see criminals and others importing puppies from low welfare countries, and also domestic puppy farmers raising puppies without proper care and attention. So back in 2018, when me and Ia started PMG, our platform was free to use, both for breeders and for buyers. But our thesis was that people would be willing to pay for the comfort of knowing that the puppy they are getting is healthy and has been raised by a reputable breeder. So after making significant investments in creating that safe environment, we launched our first paid service a couple of years later. And rather than breeders complaining that it was no longer a free service, in fact, the opposite happened, and we saw an increase in activity on the platform. And that was really the moment when we realized that, you know, the two goals are not mutually exclusive, and we can do something great for animal welfare, but at the same time also build a meaningful business.
And Pets for Homes here in the UK, where I'm located, has become a flagship example of your model in action. And as this is a tech podcast, I've got to ask, how have you used technology, particularly AI, which is a big buzzword at the moment, to rebuild trust and accountability in online pet transactions? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, great question. I think pretty much all marketplaces today use moderation tools and AI to some extent to capture suspicious content and fraud. What is different for us is that all of our tech is purpose-built for pet transactions. And that means that, for instance, we use AI to scan many thousands of images that are uploaded to the platform every day. And what we look for are things like cropped ears, dog tails, unsuitable living environments, if there are no images of the puppies together with their mother, and so on. And that has been incredibly helpful given the volumes of images that are uploaded. And similarly, we automatically scan all documentation that is uploaded to the platform, such as license documentation, microchip data, and so on. But to be clear, our human moderation team has also grown at the same time. But without the use of AI, we would never have been able to bring down the level of confirmed animal welfare cases to just a handful per month out of the hundreds of thousands of pets that are rehomed every month. So it has been an incredible tool for us to sort of accelerate our trust and safety work.
And I think many marketplaces, they often talk about safety, but one of the things that stood out to me is that at PMG, you actively deploy background checks, fraud prevention tools. From a technical point of view, what goes into building that kind of integrity into the tech platform?
Yes, you're right. So fundamentally, we believe that you should not be able to sell an animal anonymously like you can on some other platforms or on social media. As such, we employ ID verification of our sellers, which is of the same standard as many banks use to verify their customers. But it's important to note that fraud does not only happen by sellers to buyers, but what has become an increasing problem over the years for all marketplaces, I would say, are phishing attempts where people contact users on the platform pretending to represent Pets for Homes. They even build, their own websites that mimic exactly how Pets for Homes would look. As such, we've spent a significant amount of time in building out a moderation layer also in our chat where buyers and sellers communicate to automatically detect and block fraudulent messages. Another safeguard is so-called device fingerprinting, where we can prevent users from accessing the platform already on sort of the registration phase based on their device ID, their IP address, and so on. So for us, and I think for everyone, combating fraud successfully on a platform like ours is really an effort which requires continuous development. You cannot put it on pause. You always need to be one step ahead of sort of fraudsters and others who continuously sort of innovate as well.
And as I said at the very beginning of the podcast, we have a lot of people listening in the US, and you recently expanded in the US through the acquisition of Lancaster Puppies that you mentioned right at the beginning there. So I'm curious, though, obviously, what makes the UK market different from here in Europe in terms of whether it be consumer behavior, regulation, or digital maturity? Are there any big differences there?
Yes, I would say quite large differences. So, and in particular, when it comes to awareness of animal welfare topics and the degree to which breeders are commercial rather than breeding as a hobby. So in Europe, you will find that most breeders, they breed out of a passion for a particular breed, whereas in the US, quite a few breeders will do it as a full-time profession. And also in the UK, for instance, pet shops were banned quite a long time ago. and the buyer will almost always go to visit the breeder in their home environment to view the puppy before purchasing it. In the US, on the other hand, shipping of pets is quite a common practice, and breeders breed much higher volume of puppies. And this dynamic, makes our platform even more valuable in the US, I would say, where trust is harder to establish given the greater geographical distance between breeders and buyers.
And the pet industry is notoriously fragmented. So with a mix of hobby breeders, large operators and independent sellers, how do you maintain these ethical standards while also scaling in such a diverse environment? I would imagine it's an incredibly tricky balance to get right.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I think what's been important for us is that our ethical standards have remained pretty much the same since the start. And they rely on a few principles where the core is that pets should be healthy. And we apply a zero tolerance approach to any type of importation of pets and to unethical breeding. So as long as you as a breeder can, live up to those ethical standards, then you will be welcome to use our platform. And that is regardless of whether you're a first-time hobby breeder, if you are a pedigree breeder, or a volume breeder that breeds as a profession. And our standards often go, way beyond what is legally required in a country. But what is, I would say, challenging for us is to maintain consistent standards across countries, because regulation is very different. Attitudes to animal welfare, which we talked about, are very different across the world, depending on local norms. I would say the UK is by far the most advanced country in terms of how we view animal welfare. And as an example, I mentioned pet shops earlier, which we do not allow on any of our platforms. Yet in a country like Italy, pet shops are considered normal, meaning that we need to explain why we do not allow something which is, considered normal and which is legal. And in such a scenario, it's very helpful for us to be able to rely on our ethical standards to explain why we believe that puppies should be raised in a home environment rather than in a cage.
And as we've said, there is this often tension between marketplace growth and animal protection. Another tricky balance there. So how do you ensure PMG stays focused on your welfare first values that you built the company on while also pursuing profitability and expansion? Again, tricky balance. Is that something that's always front of mind for you?
Yes, absolutely. I would say to start with, we do not really see that the two goals of increasing animal welfare and growing our business are at odds with each other. So in fact, we have seen that, as we raise the bar to advertise with us on the platform, that only attracts more reputable breeders to us. And the reason is that responsible breeders want to advertise their litters in an environment where they are shown next to other responsible breeders. Also, our product development is very much focused on achieving both of those goals simultaneously. I'll quickly talk about sort of a recent example, which is our payment service, where the buyer will pay for the pet through our platform. In return, they get a health guarantee from us during 6 months, where the buyer will get their full money back in case anything were to go wrong in that period. And the breeder who accept payments for us, they get verified reviews from buyers, which helps them grow their credibility on the platform. And in return, we get the commission on each of those payments. So that product is a perfect example of how we can increase animal welfare while at the same time also grow our business. And finally, I would say that, it helps a lot having a team which are incredibly passionate about animals, also on a senior level. At PMG, we sometimes, joke that we have more team member photos of pets than there are actual employees in the business, which is true since many of our team members often have more than one pet in their household. So it really goes across, the full team and this passion of, doing something good for animal welfare, while at the same time, scaling the business.
And you've also got an impressive 50% EBITDA margin and team spread across Europe and the US. Incredibly impressive what you've achieved here. But if we were to take a look under the hood on this Daily Tech podcast, tell me more about your internal tech stack or operational model. What does that look like to support this level of efficiency? Because it's how you've scaled to a global business is phenomenal here. I'd love to know a bit more about the tech that makes it all possible.
Yeah, so I think the key to our scalability is that we operate as a single team using a single tech platform, even though we today operate across 6 countries. So we would not build functionality specific to any one country, but as soon as we build a product, we can roll that out across all markets. Even in our customer support team, we operate on a global basis, meaning that any single agent in that team will moderate and handle support queries from a number of different countries using the same interface. And that means that, as we add countries to our portfolio, we don't need to scale the team to the same extent. And being profitable is really, a cornerstone of mine and Iya's philosophy of running PMG. For us, it's important for a couple of reasons. One is that we do not need to rely on external funding and spend time on funding and thinking about funding. And the only time we've actually raised money was back in 2019. Secondly, with the profits that we generate, we're able to acquire additional sites in new markets and bring them on board to our platform. So it's really sort of a core it's been a core philosophy for us since the start of starting PMG.
And I would imagine you're already looking ahead and towards 2026 and beyond. So if we do look ahead, how do you see PMG becoming that global infrastructure for ethical pet commerce? Is that another illusion you're able to give us a few teasers on that you're preparing for, or what does the future look like for you?
Yeah, great question. I think, something which is clear to us is that our ambition is to scale further into new countries and also in the countries that we already operate in. I think it's important to note that our model only works when people truly care about animal welfare in that specific country. If you don't, then you might as well buy your puppy through social media or a general classified site that also sells PlayStations and cars and whatnot. And we have a role to play in that, in educating people on what good looks like in terms of how you should go about buying a pet. But there is still a large number of countries where our work is not seen as important as, for instance, in the UK. Luckily, there is a global mega trend of pets increasingly being seen as part of the family, also in developing countries. So to answer your question, I would say yes, our ambitions are global, but there is still some way to go until we'll be able to roll out our model successfully to some parts of the world.
And a question I've got to ask, do you have a pet? What pets do you have?
I don't have currently. I have been a dog owner of a whippet called Luna, but not today.
Okay, no problem at all. And we started the podcast talking about your origin story and looking into the future. Now we've come full circle. I'm going to ask you to look back at your career, because I think none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. Very often there's somebody that sees something and invests a little time. And so if you were to look back at your career, who would you be grateful towards who maybe played a big part in helping you getting where you are and how you operate your business now? Who would that person be and why? It'd be great to give them a shout out.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful to a lot of people, I would say, who I've had the pleasure of working with throughout the years. But I think, if I were to single out one person, then it's very, very clear to me that it would be, my co-founder, Iya Chakra, who, without him, PMG would not be where it is today. We started this business together already being very close friends, having studied together and later sharing a flat in London as we both worked in the banking industry. And being, an entrepreneur of any business, I would say is a stressful and painful experience. And in particular, when we're talking about a high growth and a business backed by investors. So being able to share the ups and downs that comes with that with someone that you blindly trust is something that I'm truly grateful for.
What an amazing story. I absolutely love that. Quick shout out to EAS. And I think your whole story of two friends sharing a flat, working in banking in London to building this ethical global business is nothing short of inspirational. I'm sure it will inspire other people around the world too. And for anybody listening, want to dig a little bit deeper, maybe want to find out more about PMG or connect with you or your team, where would you like to point them?
Yes, so I'm personally, I'm always happy to connect with anyone who's interested in animal welfare or just business in general through LinkedIn. So you'll find me under my name, Axel Lagercrantz. Other than that, we have a corporate website on our URL, petmediagroup.com. And there you can read more about us, our vacancies, and about our different brands and so on.
Well, I'll add links to that and your LinkedIn to make it easy for people to find you. And I always say at the end of every episode, technology works best when it brings people together. But what you're doing here is another level. You're bringing people and animals closer together. And you're doing that in your native Sweden, grown around the world to UK, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, and now the US. And I can just see this continuing to expand. So I'd love to get you back on next year and hear more about the kind of difference that tech is helping you make. But thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you very much, Neil.
So the next time you scroll past a photo of a puppy online or hear someone talk about AI in business, why not think about this? What if technology behind that adorable Labradoodle listing is doing more than you realise? What if it's quietly checking for signs of neglect, scanning IDs and making sure a pet doesn't end up in the wrong hands? That's the kind of work that my guest and his team are doing at Pet Media Group and doing it every day. And when operating in a fragmented, emotional and often unregulated corner of the internet, I think it's great to see that they've built this platform where trust isn't a buzzword, it's a requirement. And they've done it all while staying profitable, growing globally and keeping welfare at the very core of everything that they're doing. And what I love most about this conversation is it shows how tech can be deeply human. And PMG isn't just about matching people with pets. It's actually building an infrastructure for a better kind of commerce, one where transparency, safety, and love for animals is what's leading the way. So, pet tech, I'd love to dig a little bit deeper on this one. And also, you've heard about me, you've heard about my dog. Tell me your pet. Do you listen to this podcast while walking your dog? If you do, let me know. Let me give you a shout out. Let me give your dog a shout out. But as for me, I'm going to be taking Finn for a well-earned walk now. He's been incredibly patient listening to me record this intro, outro, but it is walk time. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Neil C. Hughes on LinkedIn, X, Instagram. In fact, if you go to Instagram, you might even catch a picture of Finn. But more on that story later. I'll leave you to it. Speak with you all again very soon. Bye for now.